On this episode, we are going to talk with Paulina of Gordo's Cantina in Brooklyn, New York. Paulina and her husband have opened this little spot a few years ago, doing extremely well. Their story is great. I mean, she's just a young entrepreneur that is stopping at nothing at building some really, really cool stuff in the hospitality space. So we're going to get to know her. We're going to get to know Gordo's Cantina. I think I'm going to be very thirsty and hungry after this one. So let's listen to a little entrepreneurial story of a spot in Brooklyn, New York. And we're going to learn a little bit about what they do, a little bit of Mexican culture, and just their story. So stay tuned. Okay, we are live, Arte Agave podcast. Very excited here today. We're here with Paulina, Gordo's Cantina. Paulina, I used to live in New York. I don't anymore. I hear about Gordo's all the time. My social media director, I feel like that's her second home. So there's a lot of people heading to your establishment. I think the best thing is just start off kind of telling everyone just a little bit about who you are and a little bit about, your establishment there. And then I've got a bunch of questions that I'd love to ask you when we get into it.
Sure. Well, I'm actually here in representation of me and my husband, who is a co-owner. We created a brand in 2013, but it was mostly he's like creative behind everything, and I'm kind of like the person that helped him execute the vision. So the brand has been around for, really since 2013, and we started doing pop-ups, small events where like 100 people in a street fair, or 200 people just selling like a little few items. And then kind of like trying to find a semi-temporary home for the brand to try out other things like tacos, quesadillas, like more like real dishes.
Gotcha. So what is your, so 2013, what were you doing before that? What were you and your husband doing before that?
Yeah. So I am originally from Mexico. I got here in 2010.
Okay.
And I actually met my husband in 2010. He has been working basically his whole life, like 18 years now, in the hospitality industry. He worked in bars, nightlife, and then restaurants. And when I met him, he was running a nightclub, daytime and nighttime operations.
Jeez.
But since I met, So, but I was 21, so I was like, oh yeah, that's awesome.
Let's do it. Yeah, I like this guy.
Yeah, so like it worked out, and like we were like, yeah, but then time passed, and he was like, no, I really like. Actually, the day I met him, he told me I want to open a Mexican restaurant, and I want it to be called Gordo's Cantina, and I was like, okay, cool. But then when things like started evolving, he was like, I'm ready to leave nightlife. I'm ready to do this. So we started figuring out how we can do it, and that's when we started doing the pop-ups. And then I was just trying to figure out what I wanted to study here. Like I just went to New York, like, hey, that year that you figure out what you really want to do.
Yep.
And I ended up staying. So that's when it was like, okay, I've had multiple jobs that have to do with industry, hospitality industry, and also nothing at all. Since throughout that entire time, like I worked in startups and tech and other areas that kind of complement everything that's needed to run a business and open more. So that ended up being like a good match.
Wow. So how did you go from, my background, 20 years bartending in New York, my wife, same thing. She was kind of like you. She was from Seattle, went to New York for a year. Let's figure stuff out. A lot of partying, a lot of drinking kind of things. So a lot of people do that, right? They work at a bar, they drink, they have dreams of opening up some bar or restaurant. They do it again the next night. You guys actually went and said, hey, let's start doing these pop-ups. So how did you go from doing the pop-ups to opening up this place of yours now? Like, what was the process there? Did you raise money? Was it your own money? How did you actually go from, the pop-ups to taking action to opening up Gordo's?
Yeah, I think the first big opportunity that we had to try the concept out, in like even for ourselves, to know that we can actually like do a restaurant and not only the pop-ups, was we took over the kitchen in a bar in Hell's Kitchen.
Hmm.
And we had our menu there. So it was like a kind of like a divey bar, but we had Gordos. We had the Gordo sign. When it was on, you could get the food.
Nice.
And people were like, oh, wow, like, you know, in this divey bar, I can get like these amazing shrimp tacos. Like it was like unexpected. So then I think when that went well, we kind of validated the idea that, okay, yeah, we should, like, the response is good. We should
Right.
go ahead and do it. But, you know, even for raising capital at that point, I think you need a little bit more validation of the brand, and you need to build it a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
So when we started doing bigger pop-ups like Governor's Ball, those big festivals, which is kind of like hard to get into, but once you're in, you're in. And you also have to deliver every year.
Right.
So, you know, you have to, like, there's a lot of learning. There's a lot of like them trusting you to have this high volume festival and things not go wrong, which they always do a little bit, but it's okay.
What, something go wrong at a festival? No way.
Yeah, as you know, even with the production for your events, it's like, it's so much work and so many things and so much troubleshooting and whatnot. But I mean, having that visibility for the brand, that definitely gave us like more confidence and more, just to like go and raise more capital for another space, for a bigger space. I don't know if you know this, but we had before this restaurant in Bushwick, we had one in Long Island City.
Okay.
It was way smaller. It was a short lease as well. It was like 4 years. But that was like a weird experience because Long Island City wasn't what it is now.
Right.
It was like very much not a lot going on. Yeah. Like, so it was also like a weird spot to open. We took the risk and kind of like we thought, okay, we picked like a really weird place in a really small, like tiny restaurant, and it still somehow worked out. So that's when we were okay, like now we have something going. And that's how we have partners, and we did raise money to open this one. And it's been going great, minus the pandemic, of course. But
so you kind of proved concept in a place that shouldn't have worked, but you made it work. And you're like, man, if we had a better location, better place, bigger place, we could definitely make it work. How do you, when you're, you mentioned the Governor's Ball and not really, so you didn't really have a restaurant when you're doing those Governor's Ball events? Like
we had to borrow kitchens a couple times.
Yeah.
We had to like lean in on our friends a couple times for sure. And when we started doing the bigger ones, we actually already had secured the lease in Long Island City. So that helped us a lot. Gotcha. But there was a little bit of a process, like a little bit of juggling for a couple of them. Definitely. Good question. Cause that's like,
as soon as you said that, I'm like, wait a minute, she's doing these massive events without really her own kitchen. Like, to me, just doing events with, like, we do Arte Agave, we do a lot of events. I see a lot of restaurants, kitchens coming in, and I know who they are, and I know they're well established and stuff, and they're still sort of stressed out. There's a lot of running around. So to not really have your own establishment doing events that seems to be just another layer of headaches and stress on you.
We had to do a couple like that, but again, we had good friends that kind of like helped us out with space, refrigeration, whatnot. But then we had the one in Long Island City, and that was also part of like, well, you know what? If it doesn't work out, we're gonna do all the shows out of this, So we didn't have a liquor license for like a few months, so we opened without a liquor license, but at least we could use it as our kitchen for the events in the summer.
Yeah. So was there? I mean, just talking to you, you seem to be in good spirits. You're kind of just giving me your roadmap real quick. Like, was there any hesitation? Was there any fear? Or you both were just like, this is what we're going to do and we're going to figure it out. And look where we are now.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think we're both definitely risk takers. We just move quick.
Yeah.
I don't know where exactly that comes from, but yeah, I'm a little bit more restrained. Like, I need a little bit more time to, like, sometimes if someone's gonna be scared a little bit, it's me. My husband is more like, let's go. But I think we both have hesitations on things that, like, lessons that we've learned, like things like we would not open another restaurant without having the liquor license,
Right.
Even if it's a few months, it's like a big difference. But we're excited to getting the food into the people to know the food, that we were like, fine, let's do it. But it's just like learning things that we would not do again, but we're like full steam ahead with everything else, you know?
Yeah, it seems that way. I mean, a lot of people would yeah, a lot of people quit. You know, a lot of businesses go under their first year. A lot of people quit. A lot of people, the first sign of stress, they're done. And I know you don't really know. You said you don't really know where this comes from, but it's kind of curious to see where this does come from. Where you get your entrepreneurial spirit. You're moving forward, like you just talked about. Well, we failed here, but we moved ahead. We failed here, we moved ahead. Um, it's very hard to teach. So I'm just curious to see what you or your husband, anybody from mom, dad, family, was there entrepreneurial spirit in your family? Where do you think you get this from?
I think, as far as for my husband, his whole family are super hard workers. Like every single one of them, they have hospitality like running through their veins.
Right.
And I think I can't figure him doing anything else. So I think this is just like his calling, you know, like, and that's why you just keep going, because when you're doing like what you really like, what you're really passionate about, he's like creative. And when he gets like, he already has another idea, but like also he has the patience to drive something to like down and then like move on to the next one.
Gotcha.
In his case, I think it's just like the passion for the business. In my case, it's like, I think my whole family also very hard workers, so I get it from them. But also it's like, yeah, I don't know. Maybe it has to do with, in my case, being an immigrant, having so many opportunities that I wouldn't have had back in Mexico.
Yeah.
As far, even without a career, like even without a college degree. So I'm just like, this is where I've invested my time, and it will work out. Like I will have to keep going until it works out, because I've invested so much of my time into it. And it's just like, you just have to keep going.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I get it. Immigrant mentality too is real. You see an opportunity, you have an opportunity, it's go time. I think a lot of people that don't have that mentality, just, you know, things are pretty good for them. So they just sort of live life and things are pretty good. And they don't really go for it. Kind of like what you guys are doing, which is pretty awesome. What you know, so as I mentioned, Elena, who has connected us, our social media directors, always hanging out. I have other friends in the industry. I know all the team from Illegal Mezcal are always there.
Yeah.
I know some people from Tanteo that are always there. What do you think I mean, obviously it's your spot, but like, what do you think makes your place so special? I always just see a lot of industry people hanging out there and a lot of consumers hanging out there. What's your secret sauce to getting everybody to show up?
I think that, I mean, even if you read some of the reviews, or I think that like people will agree on, is that aside from the food, which is really, really good, there's like a vibe, which is hard to explain. Like, what is a vibe? Like what makes that up? It's like, obviously the ambience and decoration, the people that work here, the music that we play, like all those components, how do they come together and like make up this space and this brand? But I think it's because we're laid back, but we're putting out a really good product. So that's like something that, like, we just got the Michelin rating last year. Well, not a star, but Bib Gourmand, which is like, I'll take that, right? We're rated by Michelin. So our food is really, really good, but you're in a very casual,
approachable
setting, approach. Like, so it's not like uptight, but you can still have like a really, really good time without feeling pressured. And like we work with brands that we connect with, like you mentioned, Illegal. You know, we have friends in the industry. We like it to be a good place for them to hang out. So yeah, I think it's just, I mean, this is the culmination of years of work. So what makes this brand and what makes this space is like all the things that we've learned and all the things that we've put together throughout the years.
Yeah. And that makes a lot of sense. You know, starting off with good food and then making it approachable, which is super cool. You mentioned the Michelin, so it's not a Michelin star, it's a Michelin mention. Is that what you said?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's the Bib Gourmand, which is affordable, consistent food.
Hmm.
So yeah, which is great. Like, I mean, it's like, that's what I mean by accessible too.
Yeah.
Like
And
our
that comes,
prices and everything is accessible.
so who's the brains of the kitchens? That you, your husband, you have a different chef? Who's running everything in the back?
So our chef is Reina Morales. She, her, it's like her mole. It's like the real deal, like stuff. My husband has a lot of input on the menu and what we add, and sometimes he has like some modifications to what's done. But really, I mean, it's Reina. Reina is she has years of experience in Mexican cuisine, and she is amazing, and she holds it all together.
How'd you guys find her?
Through not a chef that was friends with my brother. He told us when we were in the Bar and Hell's Kitchen, he was working with us, and he said, when you're ready to open like your real place, you have to call her, because I think it will be such a perfect match, and it has been.
Yeah. What that's awesome that you have like this sort of dream team, you, your husband, someone in the back to run things. How's it, so me personally, I run my business with my wife. It's great. We have at it every once in a while. How's it working with your husband?
Yeah, well, interesting that you're in the same position. It's a whole thing, right?
Yeah.
I think it's good. I think you learn how to I think we've gotten good at separating things and like time boxing things.
Yeah.
I think that's what has helped, which we've learned in the last few years. It's like
time boxing. I like
time
that.
boxing. Yeah. Just like, we're going to talk about this for an hour and a half and that's it. Or we're not going to talk about this when we get home.
Yep.
And like the more we do it, or like we have agendas, like actually agendas. So more like, like a real, like if it was like a real business, like a meeting, like with someone about your business. That's not your partner.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's interesting. It's good. But there's a lot of things to work, definitely to learn and so that it doesn't become.
Yeah. And that makes a lot of sense. I like the phrase you said, time boxing, because my wife and I, it took us a while to learn that too. Because we live the same place, we're working the same thing. It's just like there's no separation. So it gets to a point where like kids are in bed and then we're talking about, and we're like, what are we doing? Like it's 10 o'clock at night. We're talking about something. We're just, it doesn't make any sense. So we've learned same thing. Like, okay, it's 9 o'clock. Let's sit down at the kitchen table and have a meeting. Like we just had breakfast with the kids 30 minutes ago. Now it's a meeting. Now I'm going to go do my thing at a certain time at night. Let's just turn things off. And it definitely works. Like in the beginning, I think my wife wanted to not, I was like, send me a calendar invite for stuff. She's like, I'm not sending you a calendar invite. I'm not, it's a kid thing on. I'm like, just do me a favor. I'm like, that's just how I operate.
Yeah.
So I see it. Right. So we've learned like our little tiny things. Like she's not really like that, like calendar invites kind of thing. She just has things that she's doing. I need to know every 8 minutes of the day, kind of what I'm doing. So we've learned each other's process and how to accommodate each other. So it's interesting, but it's definitely if you're not during the pandemic, I looked at my wife, I was like, man, thank God I love you, because like it could go bad quick if you're not getting along, if you're not really in a strong relationship. Doing business with them is not going to work out.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely a challenge, but I think once you have figured out, like you said, like now you know how the other person operates, the time and the place to mention certain things, like you have your little like, okay, morning, no, because probably gonna forget, like maybe I should do it at this time. So those little tricks, and actually doing it consciously, like actually being conscious about what we are doing, and not just like going with the flow.
Yeah. So I mean, you guys are obviously doing very well. Very busy spot. What does the future look like? You guys have any plans for expansion? There's a Gordo's part 2. What's happening there?
Well, we're actually opening another place in hopefully a few months, but it's not. It's going to be an Italian food and
Cool.
pizza and a bar.
Nice.
So that's going to be like completely different from what we're doing right now. So we have a little bit of focus on that, but definitely Gordo's is like our main like our first one, like our
Yeah.
baby. And we are going to do. We're probably going to look into getting like a food truck,
Hmm.
so we can go to festivals out of state,
Yeah.
do more. I mean, we get a lot of requests for caterings and weddings and bigger events, and just having a food truck is like a big help. So that's like in the next like few months.
Hmm.
We're hoping to do that. As far as Gordo's expanding, it's not something that we are considering in like the next couple of years. However, we are eyeing like trying to get a good, like basically three restaurant concepts under our sleeve, and just do our Italian. We have our Mexican, and we have another one after that, and then just kind of like have our three places that we, the food that we like, where we want to hang out, the experience that we want to have, and just
Yeah.
like share that. And that's just like a 5-year kind of thing. But
Gotcha.
as far as Gordo's goes, it's so special, and it's so hard to replicate something so special. So even if we did something outside of here, I think it would be like a toned down version,
Hmm.
maybe not like all our menu or all the things that you have here, because that's when you lose a little bit, I think, invariably.
Yeah. Yeah. I got it. So I mean, you get a lot of event kind of requests. Do you have a separate event staff, or is it just you and your husband
Oh
loading
no.
stuff up in chafing dishes and going?
We kind of end up doing some of that,
Yeah.
because it's just growing so fast. And like even last year, since people were locked up, so every festival that we did was like so much busier than
Hmm.
the years before. We have a team that comes and works with us every summer. They're amazing. They know what they're doing. And it's hard. Like it's hard work. There's a lot of moving pieces. We try to stay away from it as much as we can, but we get pulled into it, which is sometimes fun. There's like a lot of adrenaline in those events. So
Yeah.
you're just done, and you're like, all right, I'm done. I did 3 day, like I don't know how many hours, but it's over now.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you mentioned staff. I mean, how is the last couple of years for you all with the pandemic and the shutdowns? Were you guys able to stay open and do to go stuff? Like, what did it look like for you guys?
Yeah, we stayed open almost like actually the entire time,
Wow.
which is not, I think it's not the case for a lot of restaurants, but we also didn't have, I mean, we feel that we didn't have a choice.
Right.
Like us, we were here, like we were like working together. Our staff, like because some of them got sick, so when they like got better, they came back to work. Our main concern was to keep everyone employed as much as we could,
Cool.
make sure that everyone could, and also like keep the business running in whatever way we could. So
Yeah.
we got as creative as we could possibly think. So we have a hospital next door that was hit really hard, and we know people there, so we noticed that like everything was closed, so the staff there was working extra hours, and they didn't have like a lot of time or food around because everything was closed. So
Right.
we raised some money to deliver meals to them. People donated money, so our kitchen staff was busy. They were working, and we had enough to like pay them and also give food to the nurses and doctors that were like working around the clock.
Wow.
That really saved the first like part of the pandemic for us, because otherwise I don't think we would have been, I mean, it was just impossible. People were
Yeah.
even scared of ordering takeout.
Hmm.
So it's like
Hmm.
um yeah.
So then and then the next part of the pandemic, you guys just stayed open and continued to do the to go stuff
Takeout.
and
Yes. So I'll take out. It was mostly him or me here all day, but
geez.
we had an opportunity to because so many places were closed in the neighborhood, we would get all the orders.
Wow.
So people that didn't know our food, because we were like us and someone else, you're just like, I'll eat whatever I can because I'm sick at home. Like, so we got a lot of customers from that.
Yeah.
Which was like, just funny how things work.
So why were the other
exposed.
ones? Why were the other ones? I mean, obvious. I mean, I understand why they would close, but why do you think they're closed? You're not closed. Did you just? I mean, you and your husband just decided to say, "Hey, we're just going to go in there every day and whatever business we get, we get."
I mean, there's a lot of things to consider. Like, people were scared of coming to work. We don't have to commute. Like, we don't have to. We can walk. So, like, that's a big thing. Yep. People couldn't get their staff to come. People had staff that were sick. And so for some places it was not worth opening without being able to sit people and sell alcohol,
right?
But for us it somehow made sense. But then everyone started opening, like I think maybe a month in or two, when they figured out, like we all figured out, it was not going away anytime soon. And then we had outdoor seating. And then we got our liquor license in 2020 in June. So this place also didn't have a liquor license for the first part.
Got it. Got it.
And outdoor dining, takeout, until we were allowed to let people back in.
So what was that conversation like? Again, you seem to just be forward-thinking person. Did you and your husband sit down and say, "Hey, should we not go in? Should we shut down? Should we?" Or were you just both like, "Hey, we're gonna do this, so let's just go in and keep going forward with the restaurant"?
I think we were both like, well, I mean, the only problem was when we were like, well, who's gonna cook? And it was like one day, and he went in the kitchen and he cooked everything. And I was like, okay, he can do it one time, but this is not going to be sustainable. Like, we have to get this, like our kitchen staff back. And then they came back, so it was fine. That was the only time that I was like, yeah, we definitely need them. And they were down to come and work. Like, they were like, we want to work. Right. But it was like a survival mode. We have to do this. There's no other option. Like, I don't think we even stopped and were like, because also you see everything that's going on here, like in the hospital, like it was pretty intense. But in a way, we're also like, oh, we are like, we were not scared. Like, it was just so in our face and so here that we personally were not scared. As much as, because we got to, like, also I think it's less scary when you actually get to go outside and work instead of being like anxious inside at home, not knowing what's going on. We had like sunlight and a walk, and most people didn't have that because, it was like a little weird.
Yeah. And I've noticed that too. I mean, I was down in Virginia, I mean, where I am now. It was a little bit different than, my friends in New York, where they've just in their apartment every day, kind of all day long. So it's nice around here. It's like, we've got some bike trails and some hills and some mountains. So it's a little bit different, so I get it. But I still want to know where, you and your husband just seem so fearless on everything. I'm curious to see where this comes from. I mean, I know you said it's immigrant mentality. But I just think it's really cool that you guys are just you're just so forward thinking. And then a lot of people I know with their businesses shut down during the pandemic, they never went in on offense. They just went defense. And I have friends that just like, we're not going in. I was like, why are you not doing to go? Or why are you not trying doing this? And they just kind of circled the wagons and didn't do anything forward thinking. But you all just was like offense.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things to consider. Like, I think we're also, relatively young. We are like, we don't have kids. We, like things that allow you to make those kinds of decisions. I know that a lot of restaurants, like, we live in the neighborhood. That's another thing. So there's like a lot of things that make it easier for us to be like, yes, like we can keep going. We can make these decisions. But not to be said, like we've made mistakes by, having this, like, let's go risk taking mentality, and we learn from them. Right. But I think you also have to be willing to accept that if things don't work out, you're just gonna have to like keep moving.
Right.
Which
Yeah.
that's like the key thing. It's not like that's the hard part. When you
Yep.
are like, it didn't fully work out, but like, all right, gotta keep going.
Yeah. There's no other option. And I like that you're putting yourself there and figuring things out. You mentioned how young you are. How old are you guys?
I'm 31 and my husband is 37.
Okay. Yeah. So you still got a lot of time to build your restaurant empire, right?
Yes, I think so.
What's your top dishes on the menu over there? What's the crowd? I guess what's the crowd favorite, and then what's like the industry favorite when people come in there to eat or drink?
I think, well, our mole enchiladas are amazing. It's mole oaxaqueño, so it's like it's not too sweet. It has a little kick. I mean, that people get addicted to, and they're so good. But I think like industry, we get our quesadillas. Like people will just try our quesadillas, which are just, corn tortilla, open face with crispy cheese, whatever you want on top, onions and cilantro. So it's very simple. It looks like a taco. It's part of our process to explain to people that it looks like a taco.
And why? Because they think it's gonna be like the two sides and and
flour. Or just at least a close tortilla.
Yep.
So we explain that we have burritas, which are not to be taken with burritos, because we do them with no rice. So it's just beans, cheese, pico de gallo, and whatever filling you choose. And it's like 2 small ones instead of 1 big one. That one is also, people like it, but also people that are used to the rice and like the lettuce and all that stuff in the burrito,
right.
are like, oh, can you make it this way? And I'm like, no, just try it first. Like, you'll like it. But those are like, I think those two also, because we do them a little differently, are what keeps people coming back.
Gotcha. That's exciting. And then what's on the cocktail menu? You said you just got the liquor license 2 years ago, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So anything special? Just margaritas, palomas?
Yeah, we have palomas. We have margaritas. All our margaritas are, I guess what you would call a skinny margarita, or like just agave, lime, and fresh juice.
Yep.
And we have a bunch of fresh juices. Like we have ginger. We have a bunch of flavors. We do that with mezcal as well. And we have a couple cocktails. We like to keep it simple, nothing too complicated or too fancy. But we do have a couple that we have a mezcal repo with prickly pear. That's so good. And I'm surprised I keep having it. And I think the repo mezcal is like interesting and it actually tastes different. So I like that drink a lot. We have another one that one of our team members brought on. His name is Eric, and it's like, and I wrote it down here because it has a lot of ingredients, but it's worth mentioning because it's so good.
Yeah, bring it.
It's called the Pajaro De Fuego, and it's pineapple, tanteo. I don't know, you guys know tanteo. Tanteo, spicy jalapeno, mezcal, lime, cinnamon, and Campari.
Oh, sounds awesome.
It's so good. So good.
I am going to come in there and order that with do you do like chorizo on your quesadilla? Is that a possibility?
Oh, that sounds like a perfect combo. You will be so happy if you eat that and drink that together. For sure.
Oh, that sounds so delicious. I wasn't hungry 30 minutes ago, but I'm starving and I want a margarita right now so bad.
I know.
So how big? I mean, I unfortunately have not been able to go into Gordo's. How big is your place? How many people does it hold?
Inside, it's 30 seats.
Okay. Yeah.
And actually,
nice size for New York.
Well, 35. Sorry. Yeah. And outside, we actually double in space.
Oh,
so
cool.
All our outdoor area has another 35 seats.
Cool. Is it like a patio in the back, or is it just sidewalk?
It's side. We have 2 decks. So this is like a long restaurant. Yep. And then we have 2 decks on the side, and then we have a front area, a little small, and then we have one of those outdoor dining structures as well. And we can put seats in the sidewalk, so it gets pretty like
oh wow,
fun. Yeah, with all those seats outside.
You get rocking. So were you able to do seating before the pandemic, or did that come about because of the pandemic?
We were able to do seating before, like it is part in the decks that are attached to it, and
Got
the
it.
one in the front, not the outdoor structure and not in the sidewalk.
Gotcha.
But definitely, yeah, it made it. We didn't think it was going to be so helpful, but when we only were able to do outdoor dining, it was a game changer.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, it was funny watching New Yorkers just sitting outside in the cold and the snow and not even care. That's what I'm like always. I was like, man, I love my city. I was like, this is so cool. I would just whatever. It's October and November 18th. Let's just sit outside and eat.
And people still do it. It's crazy. New Yorkers are just.
What else are you gonna do? Like level. To your point, what else are you gonna do? You just got to move forward, figure it out, do the next thing.
Yeah.
Nice. Do you get a lot of rentals over there? Or people just like buyouts during the holiday seasons, or is it more just catering offsite kind of stuff?
We get well, it's so small, so it's like I think people. I mean, basically, we're getting to a point where we feel like we need a bigger restaurant to like. But even for events, we haven't had too many of those. We do in the summer do more caterings and special events for brands or like things that go on. We've worked with a bunch of brands that just want to have like a Mexican concept, like brand like sneaker brands or whatever. So those are fun. But we mostly in the summer. Got it.
And have you seen like consumer wise, like, I mean, we started Arte Agave event about 10 years ago. Wow. I was a bartender in New York, and I kind of saw the writing on the wall. It's like, oh, people are just asking about different brands and reposados and anejos. So obviously we know this agave category has just been bigger than ever. I think it's number 2 selling in America. I think it's number 1 in New York. Is tequila?
I wouldn't be surprised
or something. Yeah. So have you seen you've been in this business for a while. Have you seen the consumers change or taste or thoughts around tequila and mezcal? Has it changed over the last 6, 7, 8 years? Back in the day, we were all just shooting Patron back in the day, and now everyone seems to be a little more aware. What do you see at your restaurant, or from your perspective? What does the agave category look like over the last 6, 7, 8 years?
I think definitely has changed so much. Like I think 6, 7 years ago, like it would be rare to go to a place and ask for like a mezcal. Like unheard of, unless it was like a very specific Mexican restaurant. Now every bar in Brooklyn has mezcal.
Right.
Like that is a crazy change. And people are more interested in like about the different varieties, which is a whole world on its own. And it's so hard to like actually even begin to grasp how complex mezcal is. And even to explain it to people. But the interest is there. It's definitely there, and I think people are open, and it's exciting because when someone explains to you what you're drinking and where it's coming from in the process, I think people are super open to that, and it's fun. So we have a good selection of tequila and mezcal. We stick with illegal for like everything. But if someone wants something else, like we brought on agua mágica, which we love. I personally drink that. It's really like, I think it's just really smooth. I like it a lot. But definitely we get a lot of people asking for things that, I mean, not 3 years ago. I'm like, okay, you want, okay.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. I love how it's going. And I said it when I was running a bar back then, I was like, this is going to be a point where, Irish whiskey, you find Irish whiskey at every bar. You find scotch at every bar. Like, I'm like, I was telling my friends, I'm like, you're going to find mezcal at every bar. It's not going to just be a Mexican restaurant or a Mexican whatever. And they're like, no, you don't know what you're talking about. I'm like, no, trust me. This category is going to go next level and through the roof. And it's happening. And it's really cool to see it, that it's not like some sort of small specialty item. I used to love it when people would ask me like, what is this new thing, mezcal? And I was like, oh, you got a lot to learn.
A lot.
but it's interesting, and it's good that people are open to learning. And I feel like the consumer, especially in New York, to me, it's always ground zero for brands and
Yes.
cocktails. You know, it always kind of starts there, but it's nice to see consumers wanting to learn and not just going to whatever brand or brand X or brand Y because of some celebrity or some marketing. I mean, that obviously is happening, but it's also nice that consumers are coming in trying to discover something kind of cool and unique. And it's cool that you guys are offering that as well.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's the bar. I mean, mostly, you know, bartenders are right there, and that they're usually the ones that get these things in people's heads, right? And like trying
Yep.
to, you know, get them to be interested in it. And it also makes people interested in Mexican culture in general.
Hmm.
Um, I think it's made people do more Oaxaca trips than, you know, like just going there and
Yep.
discovering what it's about and trying the food and all of that, which is great. Like it's great that more people actually know and are interested in Mexican culture as a result of this.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And so where are you from originally? I'm sorry.
I'm from it's called Leon. It's
Okay.
central Mexico. It's Guanajuato is the state. It's central Mexico.
And how
So
long have you lived here in America?
13 years.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you've probably seen, I mean, especially the 13 years you mentioned Mexican culture. You know, what has been the difference between, you know, Americans or gringos, whatever label you want to put on us? You know, to me, I feel like, you know, you had mentioned people are understanding that Mexican culture a lot better than they used to. And, you know, it used to be Cinco de Mayo and let's just wear a big
Yeah.
sombrero and appropriate culture or whatever. But I feel like this last 6, 7 years with the rise of agave, you know, the awareness of real authentic Mexican culture has been coming along with that. I mean, do you feel the same way? Have you
Yes,
noticed it or
absolutely.
yeah,
Absolutely. I think so. And that's like refreshing.
yeah.
Because it's special spirits. They have like a soul. They have like
Mm,
you know, there's families behind this. There's like a thought, there's like heritage and culture and all that stuff. So it's really nice to see that at least in New York it has picked up this way and honestly, as if it keeps expanding in the US, it's going to keep making either other states that don't have as much exposure as big cities like New York or LA to be like, oh wow, okay, like
yeah.
you know, someone in the Midwest learning
Mhm.
about mezcal, like that's super awesome.
Yeah, and we see it. I mean, not saying it's a small city, but we were in Atlanta last year and it reminded me of New York like 6, 7 years ago. Like when I was there talking to bartenders. I mean, you know, obviously they're very smart, they're very aware, but it was like that. The bartenders had different brands, they had different expressions. They were excited about tequila, they were excited about mezcal. So everywhere we went, it was kind of that same feeling. And even our consumers, like New York consumers now are like, they're so smart. They don't even,
Yeah.
you know, they don't even want to pay attention. I already know that.
Yeah,
But down there, I felt like it's kind of on that
there's that.
cusp. Same exact thing where they were just like, oh, I know there's something else. I know what that brand is. Extra anejo. What makes it Cristalino? They're like a mascot. Like, you know, there was definitely that interest like New York was 6, 7 years ago.
Oh,
So, and
that's
to your
cool.
point, I think that rises that Mexican culture as well, where people are like, all right, so if you really want to understand mezcal, you've got to understand some Mexican culture.
Yes.
Otherwise, you're not gonna get it at all. So, I think it's happening, and I think it's happened around the country. And it's exciting to see.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nice. Um, so what else? What else is happening with you, your husband personally? I mean, you guys seem to be working all the time. How do you work-life balance? Do you get any date nights? Like what, you know,
Yeah,
how do you balance that work?
I think we have our seasons. Like we have maybe after our summer shows end,
Mm,
like maybe like October, November, we have some time where like everything is steady in the business, like it's not too crazy, but it's, you know, it's kind of like on a flat that we can take off and go away.
gotcha.
Um, yeah, I mean, we just do what's quick and easy. We just go to Florida.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I definitely feel like for mental health, we need to go away. Like, I would love for it to be more than twice a year, but
Right.
yeah, into
Yeah.
Mexico whenever we can.
Gotcha.
But yeah, it's not like, I mean, there will be months where we just have to work nonstop. Like we just say like, all right, this is the time to do this, and then we're gonna go away after this big push, and that's it.
Gotcha.
Yeah, which, it's not like, oh, we have a day during the week, because things can happen, like, as you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. So
something blows up.
do you plan those getaways, those vacations, or they're just like, okay, we've got a week next week. Let's go
Yes.
somewhere.
Yeah.
That's how
Yeah,
it is.
it's hard to plan like more than 2 months in advance,
Right. Right.
which I would love to, but there's always like, oh no, because then you have to change it and you have to pay to change it. So it's like, no, I'm fine with just like saying, okay, it's next week, let's go. That's it.
That's nice. And you guys remind me of me and my wife. We used to just shoot down to Puerto Rico or something, and just for a couple of days, just to
Yeah.
get some sun, get away, not really do much, pool, eat food, drink, pool, eat food, drink, and then shoot back to New York and get back into the grind.
Yeah, I used to be more like, I mean, years ago when I first got here, I used to be like, oh, I want to travel, but I want to go to a million places when I'm traveling, and run around and see the city and all this stuff. But if I did a trip, like, it's just a different kind of trip. I feel like it's different than going and not doing anything and not feeling pressure that you have to make dinner at a certain time or go see this place. Like, it's just it's not as re-energizing as,
Yeah.
just chilling and doing
I
nothing.
get it. And that's how we were too. We're just like, I just want to sort of do nothing for a couple days.
Yeah.
And if something comes up and we want to go do it, let's do it. Otherwise, I'm not or at least we're not a agenda kind
That's
of
cool.
vacation person.
You're on the same page, so that's cool.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, now, we're a little bit older. We have kids, and I like to stay active on on vacations. But back in the day, we were just like, let's just.
Do you feel like going out now? Nah. All right, let's
Maybe.
just.
Yeah, you want to get some drinks? No, sure, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
Very
For
cool.
sure. I mean, going to Mexico, that is actually just because of the distance and like the whole thing. It's a journey. Like, to go where I'm from, it's 8.5 hours traveling.
Oh,
so
wow.
It's like, like it's a whole day, and then so it's not super relaxing, and it's not practical to go for a few days. So that's when I try to squeeze in like a couple weeks.
Do you you still have families all still in Mexico? Do you have any here in America? Okay.
No, all in Mexico.
All in Mexico. And how often do you get down to see them?
I think once a year or twice, but they come here a lot.
They do.
So even if I don't go there, like, at least one of them is gonna come 2 times, like 2 times during the year. I'll get to see a couple of them.
And how many are we talking about? You have a lot of brothers.
I have a brother. I have a sister, and then my parents.
Cool. So, okay.
Yeah. It's always nice to get that energy from. That's also like a big thing, when you're tired and you're working so much, there's nothing like spending time with family. I think that's just like a general rule. Like, that will make you feel like back to your center no matter what.
Yeah, that's really cool that you still have that base to kind of re-energize you like that, because you're absolutely right. Sometimes it's just nice to be like, all right, this is family, this is love, this is, especially in the hospitality industry, you're on all the time.
Yeah.
Handshakes, hugs, thank you, see ya, you're my friend. What's your name? I know you. Da, 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 da. And you're just like, whoa, who's my real friend? Who am I just catering to? But when you get family together, there's like, nothing better than that.
Yeah, for sure. It's a different feeling.
Yep. Yeah. Very cool. Well, listen, Paulina, I appreciate your time and doing this with me. And I appreciate your support that you've been doing with Arte Agave and our events and all the other fun stuff. Before I let you go, how do people remind everybody your Instagram or, what's your website? So we can find you.
Actually, I wanted to show you speaking of immigrant spirit, I wanted to show you my shirt.
Nice.
It was not on.
Do you guys sell that?
This is a brand of a friend of mine. It's called Immigrant Gear. So he sells this, and he sells hats. So it's cool. I was like, I'm gonna wear it because I feel like it represents a little bit of what we're gonna be talking about.
Yeah, I love it. That you said, that immigrant mentality. Like, you can't teach that. it's in you, and talking to you and seeing it and knowing it, like people, like I said, I work with a lot of entrepreneurs. I talk to a lot of entrepreneurs, and they don't have that immigrant mentality. And it's very, very hard to teach, and they just want to go and they want to build, but they're almost too comfortable with their other surroundings. But when you get that immigrant mentality, you're like, "This is all or nothing. We're going
It's
for it."
just, yeah, I think so. But yeah, sorry, going back to our Instagram, it's Gordo's Cantina.
Yep.
Our website, we don't, I mean, super basic. So the good stuff is in Instagram.
Gotcha.
So you can find us there, follow us there. We have tons of specials that we post there almost every day. So
Cool.
that's where people can see that, and events and new cocktails and stuff like that as well.
Nice. So if people come in, are you at the front? You behind the bar? Where or you're everywhere?
I am I'm usually on the floor. So
Okay.
a couple days, not behind the bar. I'm not as good as a bartender. I wish I was, but I'm happy to try all the new cocktails, of course. Yeah, but no, I'm here on the floor usually.
Gotcha. Well, cool. We appreciate it, and congratulations on everything you've been doing. It's a wonderful story. I love everything you guys have built, and I love your passion for what you're doing, and you're just figuring it out kind of mentality. And I'd love to see what's going to be coming in the next 3, 5, 7 years for you and your husband. So thanks again for your time.
Thank you so much. And thank you also for everything you're doing with Arte Agave. And I think you are doing a great job at honoring these spirits and like helping us, spread the word in a way that's true to its roots. So that's awesome. I think you guys are doing a great job. I look forward to the next Arte Agave event for sure. It was so much fun, and all the brands there are amazing. So thank you as well. And I hope you can come and try our food sometime.
Oh, trust me. Next time I'm in New York, that's the first place I'm going to.
Sure. I got your order already.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Paulina. We'll appreciate everybody for listening. Thank you.
Thank you.